Welcome back to another great episode of your favorite podcast, Deac2Deac. In this episode, I had a chance to sit down with Wake Forest Hall of Famer Michael Bingham. Michael shares his story, his Olympic experience, his favorite Deacon moment, and of course, much, much more. Stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe and go Deacs. Here we go. Michael Bingham, track legend, uh, at Wake Forest on the international stage. Thanks for stopping by, taking the time out to spend some time with Deacon Nation and share your experience. Let's start from the beginning. So, what part of North Carolina are you from? And let's talk about your experience growing up and how you got into sports overall.
Yeah, weird story, like everything else. I was born of a British father and Southern mother from Goldsboro, North Carolina, in a small place called Silva, North Carolina, which is to this day probably 2,000, 2,500 people that live in the small town. It's not far from Western Carolina University, where they met out there, and from there, we moved kind of across the state with Greensboro, then to Goldsboro for a while. Then we came back to Burlington. It was just me and my mom at that point. And then about somewhere, I was there for a while. And then somewhere about 14, I won a scholarship to go to Macaulay School in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I was there for 4 years as a boarder. That was, part of like my first little, taste of being on my own and being away and started being the first student athlete. I guess I was a student athlete there too. So
What was that like so early in your life at that point to you're moving to Tennessee, you're at this great school.
Mhm.
What was it? Did you really have a chance to continue to explore your athletics there at a high level?
Um, so I think the short answer is yes. Um, I was so fortunate enough to have some coaches that were kind of plugged in. So when I first went there, though, I went there and I played soccer. I think, one of three freshmen on the varsity team. It was like that was my thing. I loved it. I still love it to this day. I'm in an adult league now. A little bit different. No. uh, so and we had an amazing like training staff too there, which was unheard of. I guess they had enough to make that happen. A lot of people don't have that. So when I first I went there for soccer for 2 years. My The track coach there saw me on the field and wanted me to just try it out. I tried it out for about 10 minutes and I was like, this might not be for me. But I eventually came back the next day, and it just so happened at a weird time where the coach was actually leaving to go coach at another. Actually, I think he was moving up to go coach at a college at that time. So it was just like the perfect time to try something new.
And what was that experience like? Because again, that essentially became your sport, track and field. That became your area. So what was the situation that made you say, you know what, I want to focus more on this? And when did you know that, hey, I could do this at the next level in college?
Yeah, so I would have to say that for me, I didn't have the foresight to really think about planning ahead or anything like that. I just like to work. And so I saw something that was really honestly difficult. And honestly, I think it hurt my feelings that I couldn't just do something. I'm gonna be honest with you. And so, if there's anything, I just went back. I knew I was quick, whatever, but you can do stuff and get humbled too.
Mm.
So, the first track meet I ran in, I won some, I lost some, and got, you know, I remember the first 400 I ran, it was just in practice. and we're just in tennis shoes. And I got to about 250, and about 12 elephants jumped on my back and said, "Not today." He said, "Not today." So I said, "You know what? I will oblige your request of stopping right here, because obviously it's not my day today." So yeah, I stopped. And things like that. It's humbling, it's hard, it's difficult. And I'm, there's something that you could say about 400 runners, and maybe some other ones, is that we're not that afraid of pain because we feel it every time. And you gotta be a little switched off a little bit
Yeah.
to get through that race.
Yeah, you do. As you and I had talked about,
Yeah.
I tried the 400 one time in high school and realized at that moment there wasn't going to be a second day. I'm not coming back for this event. No, it's not going to happen. I'm sorry. So now you talked about running the 400 your first time out. How did you use that to become a decathlete with 10 different events? That has to be the most challenging of all events. How did that evolve? How did you evolve into that?
Well, I think it's just, shout out to my high school coach, Coach Wood. But I think that, he saw that I was just an athlete in general. And I also saw it as another, here we go again, a challenge. I'm not trying to be cliche, but it's almost like I just seek out what's the most difficult thing to do and just try to do it anyway. But like you said, yeah, 10 events. It was fun though. It was really, not monotonous. I mean, you're learning about, at this time in Tennessee, you couldn't throw the javelin, but because of safety concerns. But we did everything from pole vault, shot put, discus. Obviously the hurdles, 110 hurdles, 1 of the 4. You got to run what we call the metric miles, 1500. I guess that would be sick, but we run the 1500. And high jump, long jump. So you do a lot, right? But it's fun learning, and you won't be a master at any of these things as a decathlete, because people that honestly spend the time just to focus on one are masters. But you can be better every time. You know what I mean? That's what it's about. Just improving in this event, improving the next event, and improvement. And like, I think that along with my just intense, and my wife will tell you this now, just my intense motivation to just be better. And sometimes it takes difficult situations or difficulties for me to like really come out and shine, which sounds counterintuitive, but I just really, I really, really enjoyed how difficult it was, how much it hurt. And actually, Michael Piscitelli, when I was there at Wake, he was older than me, obviously, but we were teammates at the time. He did the multis too. And so if you know Michael Piscitelli, then you would probably say that it's a decent athlete, or it's a good fit too, because honestly, it's grueling. We would be out there for 3 or 4 hours a day, every day,
Yeah, I work with Mike, so
Yeah.
you're right. It's there's a little switch there with both of you guys.
Yeah.
But shout out to Mike Piscatelli as you know this. So you're in high school and
Mhm.
you're picking up track, and you're doing well the 400. And when did you know that not only were you going to play in college, but now you're getting recruited by some well-known programs?
Mhm.
What was it about Wake Forest that was the deciding factor for you that's where you wanted to go?
Well, so it's a huge spectrum of like wide range of schools that contacted me, and without giving any names, there's everything from like at some of my SEC schools where you feel like it's like, well, we won't say anything, but SEC schools where big machines, mostly athletic to me. Some other ACC schools where there's a little bit of a blend. You have some military schools, and you have some Ivy League, not the Ivy League schools, but like some Ivy League schools.
Oh, it's okay to name names. You've
No,
already made your
I won't name
decision and your
drop.
history. You've
I'm
already laid
not.
your legacy.
So
I understand.
yeah. So Wake, when I walked on campus, it felt like I was not a number. It didn't feel like, matter of fact, one of the things that my mom asked every visit that we went on, or every coach that we talked to, was, what is your matriculation rate for student athletes, and in particular Black student athletes? There are some other schools, to be honest with you, even in our state, where it's cool to get in, but it's even better to finish, and that was important for me. So I just felt like when I walked on campus, people wanted you to succeed, will give the resources and time, cared about your well-being. There's some people in that place still there to this day that I tap on their shoulder, ask them advice all the time. So people really care, and you could feel it too. Like, I don't know if it's different being an athlete or not from everybody's experience, because I can only speak for mine, but I know that I felt like people had my best interests at heart for the most part, and I could feel it.
And you're right. Whether it was recently talking to Hannah Maxwell, who is currently on the women's field hockey team, freshman there, or whether you're talking about Lauren Crandall, who had won national championships at Wake and field, it's the same thing, regardless of sports or really era, that is that having resources available to help student athletes get to that finish line and finish strong in terms of getting the degree and being prepared. That seems to be the common theme that student athletes enjoy and really feel the most. And so you got to Wake, and you have just an immediate impact and success. Your freshman, you come in, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, your first meet in the decathlon, you defeat the defending ACC champion. Your first meet, and this is after starting track, only 3-4 years previously?
Right.
What was that like, coming in and having that much success right off the bat?
I had no awareness. I completely, I honestly have no awareness. I just did what I came to do. I felt like I worked decently hard, and I hadn't, and not until the coach told me, to be honest with you, throughout my whole college career, only my last year, I felt like, and I got injured at one point too, so I had to deal with that. But even when I was professional, even when I was professional, I always told my agent or my coach or anybody that was working with me, I don't want to know what lane I'm in. Just tell me like what time I need to be there, and let me run. And that's it. I don't want to hear about who ran first, who ran last. I didn't even want to watch the meet. Matter of fact, when I went to meets, competitions, I would put my headphones on and I watch cartoons until it was time to warm up. No lie.
Okay. So you brought this into conversation. I didn't. What cartoons would you watch to keep you focused at a meet?
At the time, I'm getting old. I'm probably gonna date myself here. No, I mean, it would be something as silly as like Phineas and Ferb, or you got to keep it light. I can't get wrapped up in this like a real narrative or anything like that. So I think Phineas and Ferb was my go-to, because all the other ones, it just took too long. But no, let's table that one, because I think at some point my kid is gonna want. It's like, what in the world, Dad? What are you talking about, man?
So you're having this great career at Wake, And
Yeah.
then in 2008,
Mhm.
you make a critical decision that you're going to redshirt. And in
Mhm.
the process of redshirting, you make a decision to that you're going to try out for the Olympics, and you're going to do it, and you're going to run for the British team, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So,
What went into that decision?
so and actually it was before 2000. So in 2007, okay. So in 2007, I had decided to switch allegiance because I had actually run juniors, and I made the U.S. junior team for the Pan American team as a decathlete, and I got third there, bronze there. And then I decided to switch um, allegiances. And I don't know what happened first or last, but in that same year, I wanted to be a sprinter. I didn't want to be a decathlete anymore. And my mom and my coach thought I was crazy. Um, but I don't know. I just believed in I believed in myself about being a sprinter. Um, and I just, well, I know what happened. It was Pan American Games. I had run for the first day, there are 2 days to the decathlon. And on the first day, I ran the 400 and I read something like 46, something like that. And the US coach um, at the time, or no, some of the US 400 guys were trying to get me to be on the 4x4 team, like just the open 4x4 team. And those guys, they had run like 46s and 45s. I was like, well, if I'm running like a little bit slower than them and I got like 9 other events, it has to be the fact that I could probably run like with them. So when I came back after that, I'd already made up my mind. I just hadn't said anything to anybody that I wanted to switch and run the sprints. But just talking to my mom, it's actually something I wanted to do in the first place, is run under the British flag anyway. But it's just easier going through all the trials and juniors and stuff like that. I would have to travel across seas to be able to make the British team, that kind of thing. So we talked about it, we did it. 2008, I ran on that 4x4 team. I made that team, ran on the 4x4 team. We ended up getting bronze after all the controversy.
Yeah, we're gonna
And
have to. We're gonna ask you about. I want to ask you about that too,
yeah,
much later. But go ahead.
yeah. That's the short story. And I got injured and a little bit after that, and I had to sit down for a little bit, but and then we came back and did okay. But
Now, we're not just going to gloss over your Olympic experience as a short
okay,
story, okay?
no, good.
That's a once in a lifetime thing that many of us would never get to experience. And
Right.
so I want to dive into that a little bit. You talked about transitioning to sprinting and focusing on the 400. First
Mhm.
of all, that's difficult. Not many people can change positions within their sport and still compete at the highest level possible with that change.
Mhm.
So, how were you able, was it an easy transition for you?
Well, I had a good coach, Mike. Sorry, Scott Hall's a good coach, and so I had a good coach to help me, and he let me do what he felt like. I think because everyone that has ever worked with me or worked around me knows that if I try something, I'm gonna give it everything. I'm not just, it's not by happenstance. So I feel like he had faith that, you know, I don't know whether maybe he had faith or maybe he was just waiting for me to like, follow a little bit and be like, well, coach, maybe that wasn't a good idea. I don't know what the answer to that is, but I do know I had some assistance with him being a good coach, but it was not easy. Um, I don't remember. I don't remember going home that much. I'll be honest with you. I remember staying here over the summers and winters and stuff like that to work out. And that's just what I did. That's how much, I put in.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you trained with Michael Johnson as well, right? Another great Olympic legend. What was that like?
Well, yeah, when he was my agent. And so,
Okay.
yeah, he was my agent. So yeah, we he helped me with my first Nike deal, and helped me navigate some of the professional stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Uh, so you created a decent relationship. I'll tell you, he's just as competitive with his you know, off the track life as he was with his track life too. So I mean, if anything, I've learned that from him as well.
So you mentioned the controversy around the medal. Do you mind kind of sharing the story of the 9-year wait
Mhm.
for your medal with the 4x4 relay team in the Olympics?
Yeah, so and I won't pull any punches with this one because it was a bittersweet situation.
Oh,
So
we here. Let's go.
okay, so yeah, we were on 2008. We have one of the fastest qualifiers. We come back in the finals, end up getting fourth. But like when we got fourth, I looked on the list, and there was just got these guys that were just, everybody can have a good race, but when you have no history of a certain level, and you just been in hiding for a long time, and you just come out and like hit one, it just doesn't feel right. So even then, we're just like, okay, well, I don't believe any of this. I mean, surely they're gonna get caught because this doesn't make any sense to us. And it wasn't us being bitter either. It just didn't make sense. And so we went on, and it's weird that these guys just like fall off. You don't hear about them, and then they just get replaced by another person. And then 9 years later, fast forward, we got to move on. 9 years
Mhm.
later, you get we actually got upgraded twice. So we got upgraded at World Championships, which was another time where the Russian team got disqualified, and we got upgraded at the Olympics as well. So, and my wife got upgraded as well with because she's a runner. She was a runner as well. She ran for a while. She actually ran in 2012, and it's just the only thing that makes it difficult, makes it hard, is that you never get that time back. So we
Mm.
had the ceremony and everything like that. 9 years later, it was beautiful, but you don't get the time back of actually being able to stand on the podium when it happened and everything that would happen afterwards. Whether it was sponsorships, uh,
Mhm.
deals, and all the other stuff that comes along with that stuff. So you do what you can, but it hurt a little bit. And still,
Yeah.
as you can tell, I'm still bitter about it.
Well, do you have it? Do you have the medal with you?
Oh, I don't. I wish I did. It's
Oh
locked
man.
up. Yeah, it's locked up. I'm sorry, man.
No, that's
I should have
that's
thought about it for you.
now when you do you still though that you had now that you have the medal, um I understand that you still saying that there's some pain there, but it has to feel good at some level to have it now that that you got it. And even though it was late, that and it was a 9-year wait, somehow it kind of sort of corrected itself. But again, like you said, you can't bring you can't get those moments back, but it's got to feel good to be one of the few human beings to ever have an Olympic medal.
So it's only been recently that I've really actually thought about it. Um, and it goes again to me just being locked in sometimes in the moment. It's like and then we're just reminiscing about things, and it just dawned on me that I have like I've touched something, I've achieved something that not a whole lot of people have. I mean, it's unfathomable for a person that was born of Silva, of a British father and a Southern mother, how they even got together in a small place like Silva, North Carolina, and birth me to get here and not have kids. So the selfish part of it's like, yes, I wanted all that. I wanted all of it. But now I'm even more excited about the fact that I get to pass something down as a memento to my kids to say, like, especially as like a, African American, to be able to pass something down with your dad's name on it that said he did this.
Yeah, I totally understand.
It means more now than I thought it would mean for. Yeah.
Totally understand. And speaking of mementos, you have a lot to pass down. You have a lot when looking at your legacy. And so, as a Wake Forest Hall of Famer, what was your favorite Deacon moment on and off the track? What was that moment on the track and that favorite moment off the track?
Well, you just saying that is mind blowing to me. First of all, say I'm a Hall of Famer, but my favorite moment, I think this was my junior year or something, and I'm not patting myself on the back. It was a group, a team effort. It really was. We had a solid core of even football guys that had come out and run with us to help us out on our short and our jumps, short sprints and our jumps. But we had of a team of scoring people, maybe we had like 12 people. And I know this sounds a little like technical, but say we had a very small, Wake Forest is a small school, but a very small amount of runners. But we were able to get, like, it sounds bad, but third place. And that's behind Clemson, which is a big, well, their program is, but there's big school, and Florida State. And during that meet, I remember, I don't know, maybe I had scored like 50 or maybe 50% or 60% of the points or something. That's not why I'm saying this though. The reason why I'm saying this is I had the two coaches, or one of the coaches at Florida State and one at Clemson. And I remember my uncle was in the stands. And so, yeah, I kind of know we're filming this, but I'm going to say it anyway. And the Florida coach came over. He's like, I just can't believe you guys even did it. We almost beat them. We beat them in some races. And one of the Clemson coaches asked if I was on, like, taking like performance enhancing. So it was, and my uncle got so mad. He got so mad. But that was like, just, it was a pat on the back to the team and to me to say, like, how could you even, small school like that, come and give us competition or, push us around in some events. That was really cool. So I was on the track, off the track, I think just getting my, degree, I could say this in full confidence that a lot of the friends that student athletes too, a lot of student athletes that I know that graduated, or even if they didn't finish and came back and then finished, all of them are decently successful doing something in whatever they do. I mean, I think it's not so much even about what they majored in. It's just the fact that I think they know how to work, they're honest. And I think they have a certain amount of just raw capability to go into any sector, learn something, make it their own, and stand out. I mean, one of my best friends is now, like, we'll say mid-level, doing pretty well at Facebook. I have friends that on boards of financial groups, and I mean, entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur myself. They run all over the place, man. It's great. And whenever I see some too, it's always great because they always, we know how to spot them. You know what I mean? Like if you see a WF on their shirt, you're like, yeah. Oh man, when did you graduate? Like it's already a fraternity. It's not just like a number. So, or sorority, however you go. So it's great. That on and off, I think those were things that have withstood the test of time over the years that I still think about.
So you have this great career at Wake Forest, and you graduate, it's time to leave. What is that transition like in track and field from the collegiate level to the pro level? You kind of, it's a little bit more overt in other sports, football, basketball, but in track, you don't really see what that transition process is like. Kind of shed some light on what is it like to go from the collegiate to the pro level.
And you know what? That's such a great question, because there are a lot of like, everybody runs. So it's not like necessarily a draft. So who designates who's pro and who's not? Like, how do you know? And so for me, being a professional is having a professional contract. So that process for me started after I ran my last race at NCAA's, and then I went through the summer, competed on the circuit, which they called, like, at the time was the Golden League, but it's basically like just like golf, if you can imagine that, where these guys go to college, then afterwards, some of them already have like contracts and stuff like that and sponsors, and they go around at different, if you make it to a certain level, you can get into certain tournaments, and those tournaments have points, and for someone like me at the time, I was running at a pretty high level, so I was in the circuit with I'm going back and forth between golf and track right now, but I was in tournaments that were, be equivalent to, playing at Pinehurst or playing a US Open, which just happened, those kinds of things. And, obviously there's winnings just like that. I guess similar to tennis too. There's winnings, but then you also have your sponsorships and your sponsors. And at the end of the year, you have the culmination of everything, which is the championships, which is whether it's the world champion, and there's tons of championships too, but kind of like tennis, they have the US Open, then you go and the Grand Slam is what you would say in tennis, but I would say it's similar to tennis and golf, and thinking about professionals, because you do have people who are on who you call amateurs, still like decent athletes, but it's hard to, so the only way I could say would be the separation, I'm sorry if I'm jumbling things, would be,
oh no,
if you have like if you're playing at that level and you have sponsorship, because some people are really good at golf, but they're not professional, you know what I mean?
So you're in the professional ranks. What were some of the biggest things about at that pro level that you had to deal with that, was sort of difficult, but you were able to work through it? Like, for example, in the NFL, one of the difficult things is now you've got to manage a lot of different things. You got to manage a lot, a lot of money very quickly. And so in track and field, what are some of the things you learned that you've had to manage and get better at in making that transition?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm still working on those things. And one thing about track, it's a lot of travel, and that's like most of my career. Probably, one or two of my races was in the US, and then everything else was either in Asia or Europe.
Wow.
So unless you're based there, which I was for about half my career, it's hard, and so these athletes have to switch on, switch off. So it doesn't matter what, or before, or you got in late, you didn't get the same food you had before, and training was off, it doesn't matter. Lights come on, perform, go home. So and that's the same thing for the football guys too, about like coming into, well, we don't get, I had a great career. Like I was able to make, coming out of college, making, not having to worry about stuff, and pretty much being better than my peers, to be honest with you. And then transition on to like doing business now. but we don't have to really worry about, but there is something with traveling overseas and stuff like that. And you'll hear some of the guys in football and basketball, and they're traveling around the different states. So you can imagine and tax implications and what that looks like when you're overseas and you're going to Croatia, China, England, Belgium, whatever. But you do what you have to do. But it was an amazing experience, man. It's a great question, but I would say that I know I was talking around in circles, but really the end of the day is that don't try not to make excuses, and try not to let the past affect your future, because if you hang on too much because this happened to me before, hang on too much, with stuff that happens, whether it's the travel arrangements that messed up or, just whatever it is, you stubbed your toe, I don't know. But when the lights come on, you just gotta perform. And if you're still thinking about the stub toe, or you're still thinking about the travel arrangements, it's going to affect how you perform that day or that time. So
hey, those toe, as an athlete, that toe is critical. Do not undervalue that toe.
Yeah. I'm telling you.
That pinky toe gets hurt, it could put you
it's
down.
Over.
So what would you say at your pro level, what would you say was that moment in your pro career that you felt was just that high point for you? What was that accomplishment, or at what point did you feel like, wow, this is it? This is, I've essentially made it in terms of, as an athlete, you've just accomplished this thing at that pro level. What was it for you? Was it championship? What was it?
I don't think athletes are ever going to get that. I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel like once you feel like you did that, you should just go ahead and hang it up. But it did happen to me, and that's when I hung it up. When I felt like, I think I had lost a race or something, and I wasn't that upset about it, or I wasn't really even thinking about how I could make it better. And I was just kind of cool. I was just cool. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll go home now. I mean, it was fine. Now my, agents and stuff like that might not have felt that way, but I think at that point I was kind of like, I'm good now,
Yeah.
It's time to move on to the next chapter of what we need to do. But it at that point though, it did scare me, because then you start thinking about, okay, well, did I set things up to be able to, then you get to those transitioning thoughts and stuff like that. But no, I never felt that way. I always wanted to be better, until when you don't feel like you made it, it's over.
How did you feel being in that unique position of being able to walk away from the sport versus the sport walking away from you? Because I've had a chance to, again, talk to other former student athletes, and in their respective sports, there's an injury or a contract situation where they weren't allowed to really get the opportunity to finish their career the way that they wanted to on their terms. So being able to do that, in a sense, how did that feel, knowing what you had put into the sport, all the hours that you can kind of call the shots and walking away?
I always had that kind of little bit. Look, when I grew up, I never, I didn't come from a lot of money by any means. I didn't come from, any means. So at any given time, anything could be. I always had that fear, that angst. At any given time, things could just not be cool anymore. So for me, this was something I was doing. I loved it. I worked hard at it, but I also had in the back of my mind is like spidey senses too, to say like, hey, at any given time, this could go. So no, I would not have been happy, but I think I would always been in a situation where I could kind of be okay with it. I feel sorry for people, honestly, and I'm not gonna lie though. The first 2 years is really hard, mentally, emotionally, and it's not what you think. I wasn't really missing the sport, but I think my body was. And I just noticed
Explain what you mean by that. I apologize for interrupting. Kind of, what do you mean by that?
well,
Your
you hear,
body wasn't, but
yeah, my body. Well, so I wasn't, but my body was. And you hear a lot of athletes say, like, when they retire, they deal with anxiety, depression, all that stuff. And I think it's people should talk about it more, because when you're pushing your body like that every day for years on end, think about if you just stop. Your body's like, where's my endorphins?
mm,
What's going on? Their body's going crazy. Just think about the amount of hormones and all this other stuff you got going on just because you're in it every day. Like mentally too, you're like pushing yourself every day, grinding every day, sweating every day. And just stop, your body just goes crazy. And it did for me. I dealt with anxiety, really heavy. I mean, and I couldn't figure out why. I was irritable, scatterbrained,
mm,
uh, frustrated for no reason. And then I started like working out, and my just in one session, like hard, and my body would just like I like honestly felt relaxed. Could breathe. And then I realized that there's something to that. Like you cannot stop. You can't
yeah.
do it how you used to do it, but you got to keep doing something because you'll stop. And then you have to find something else to get into or you go crazy. So is that
Is is it addictive? Like, so as
it?
a, like you say, as an athlete, you take your body to that level,
Mhm,
and you essentially are on this high. And
mhm,
is that, I almost think that part is addictive as well, because like you mentioned, your body goes through a total chemical shift.
mhm.
And when you're working out and you're pushing yourself, and do you see that as something that could be addictive, and why, as you get, when you go from you're training hard to all of a sudden it just stops?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I know somebody could probably study this. I'm not a scientist, but I could see my body like just if you even if you eat, I don't know, every day in the morning you ate uh French toast. I don't know. I'm just making something up. A
Yeah.
slice of French toast every day for like 10 years. And then one day there's no more toast in the world. Something would be, I mean, your body's probably like can absorb, maybe you gain like 300 pounds,
Yeah.
I don't know, or your body was able to absorb the syrup really well. I don't know. But,
Yeah.
and then you just stop. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure. Um,
So in talking about that, you mentioned the anxiety and all
mhm.
those things that can come with that. Uh, Talk a little bit more about the Alamance Academy
Yeah.
and your entrepreneurship and how you got into the mental health field. And was that something that you had prepared to do, or was it something that you sort of just kind of stumbled upon and got involved in?
No, so when I was a kid, there was like so before my mom had opened up I won't say a facility, a home for kids, boys. We had an open door policy in our neighborhood, which I thought was weird at the time, but now I think it's pretty cool. So everybody would just not everybody, but there, select group of people. Didn't matter if you're come in, have some dinner, have a plate. Not everybody was invited to stay, but it was an open door policy. If you need something, you just know, call Mo, which is short for Melissa. That's my mom. So that's how I grew up. And so as I went through life, that's how I kind of treat myself anyway. But she had started when I was in college at Wake, actually. She started a home for boys 18 or 17 till they get of adult age. Um, and so I was a part of that too. I saw how hard it was for her. Also talked to the boys, so I knew how hard their lives were. Their backstories are actually crazy. um, we were able to get a lot of these kids into college and have normal lives after that. Made me feel good. Honestly, it's been a center of our family in general, being able to experience that, me and my brothers and sisters and all of us. So when I was running, a little bit after that, I think this was in about 2014. No, a little bit before that, 2011. I started just being interested in it, getting more involved in it. I came back during the summers and stuff like that. Started expanding so I'm on the business side. So we started expanding more of the services to do more of the mental behavioral health stuff. So outpatient things like that. So we've done substance abuse, therapy. Um, we have like up to 5 or 6 locations, and we also have a home health company as well. So we have psychiatrists, psychologists, nurse practitioners, RNs,
Wow.
counselors, all that stuff, and we just try to help people get better. That's it, man. And that's why I was so open about even what I still deal with today, but also that transition for me and how that affected me, with the mental health and being really anxious, probably for no reason. You just feel a heightened sense of, I don't know what it is. Yeah, yeah,
Everything, heightened
yeah,
sense of everything.
yeah.
With going through that process, and as an entrepreneur, you building this business, continue to build it and grow. And you
Hmm.
talked about Michael Johnson earlier being your agent, and how that same focus and dedication and work ethic he had on the track, he put into the business off the track.
Hmm.
Do you do the same things? Do you find yourself carrying that level of focus, intensity, and drive and competitiveness and all those things? Do you put that into the business as well?
Um, yes and no. I'm a little bit of a new age kind of kid. I'm a late millennial, I guess you would call them. So I'm really, when I'm focused in on it, I'm really focused in on it. That's the reason I feel like we've been so successful. However, what I'm realizing though is I got 2 young kids, and so I have to balance that um, with family. Because I could easily, I mean, as being an entrepreneur, I could be working 24 hours a day. And to be honest with you, when I first started, that's what I was doing. I was doing payroll during my before my semifinals. I mean,
Oh,
that's how
wow.
crazy it was. And at the time I was in England, I was doing payroll for the US. So the time difference and all this other stuff. So, you know, but now getting older, I'm starting to realize that as long as I dedicate a certain amount of time to certain things, and prioritize, and, I got to give time for family. And so I work hard. We've been growing, but I also got, 2 awesome kids that I want to see grow too.
Now, speaking of family, you talked about your wife being a runner as well and competitive. Is the two of you competitive at home?
She is more than me. Yeah, she is. She tried to race me for a long time. Matter of fact, I probably got video of this because she was like, Mike, I bet you cannot run like 25. I mean, come on, 25 seconds in the 200. I don't know why she said that. And so I was like, you know what? This is how me and her just are just competitive, where she pushes me like this. I don't know. And so we went out to the track at Duke, and I strapped him up, man. I had to show her. Yeah. I told her, matter of fact, I was so sure of myself. I told her to videotape it. Yeah. But yeah, we
Wow,
she's a
that's
cool
competitive.
yeah, she's a cool partner though, but she won't race me though. I don't know why.
She won't rate it. Yeah. And maybe it's because I'm out of shape. My wife would gladly race me. She would take that challenge. Win. Let's show up and get it done.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
Hey, Michael, man, thanks for taking the time out your day. What message would you give to current student athletes as they are dealing with the challenges of balancing academics and athletics, as well as try to have a balance in their personal life with their
Yeah.
friends and family, and enjoy the overall college experience? As someone in the mental health field, as someone who's been successful at the highest level of your sport, that's a Hall of Famer. What
Mhm.
insight and advice would you give to current student athletes that may be facing some challenges trying to balance everything?
Yeah, that's deep. I think one lesson I would tell myself as a freshman is one, uh, take advantage of all opportunities that you have in front of you. So even if that means talking to a, a non-student athlete that just wants to like chop it up with you for 5 minutes, like maybe that's a cool relationship, to to foster. Or maybe it's that random class that we have to take for some reason. Really get into it. Ask some questions, talk to the professors about it. So take advantage of things. Also perspective. So sometimes as student athletes, we get like really, and it's what's made us so good too, so great, is we are able to focus and hyper focus and really be into something. But sometimes that perspective of it being so important, it's really not, and it creates a lot of, it can be destructive. So say you're trying to think of another sport example. I don't know, say you're in basketball and your coach is like on you about you need to really work on your handles and something like that, and you're trying to work on, and I know Chris will probably say something totally different than me, and hopefully I'm not saying anything out of that's so crazy because he's a basketball dude. I don't know, say you're just trying to work on this new move in basketball, it's a crossover, or you're trying to like do a jab step or create some space or something like that, and you just keep working on it, keep working on it, keep working on it, keep working on it, you might, it's good to keep working on it, but don't neglect other things too. So it's cool to like just keep perspective on things. So I would say perspective and take advantage of every opportunity so it doesn't lead to regret later. So I think you'll be happy no matter where it ends if you take those two things. You ran your race, you did what you needed to do. There's nothing else. There's nothing else left.
Yeah.
You know. So I think that would be cool. Hopefully, that's what I would tell my little self.
Michael, thanks. And you've got to come back to campus. We got to have you back.
Yeah.
Whether it's for a meet or a game, any sport, please come back. Deacon Nation would love to see you and interact and engage. And again, thank you for taking the time out to share with us your Wake Forest experience.
Hey, I appreciate it. Anytime you're, my schedule will always be open to you and to anybody from Deac Nation that needs it.
So, Michael, one other question I want to ask you. We're going to start making this a trend. Who do you think I should talk to next on Deac2Deac Podcast? Who you think?
Wow,
great?
That is a good trend. He's like a chain.
Yeah.
So if I could think of somebody, honestly, and this might sound a little bit strange, but there was, oh man, how about, because I'm trying to think of someone that was like would be really interesting that we won't really think about too much. Maybe Chip Vaughn.
Chip Vaughn.
Yeah.
So you've heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. Michael Bingham, his choice is Chip Vaughn. Has to be. He wants to hear from Chip Vaughn.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see if we can make that happen.
I think
it's great. Cool. You pick someone from a totally different sport. So again, Michael, thanks, man. Appreciate everything. Looking forward to seeing you back on campus and at some of the games and meets and stuff like that. So thanks again for joining in, man, to Deac2Deac.
Thank you.